Nintendo has officially ruined a major aspect of the gaming industry and the history and culture itself. What am I talking about? What culture of gaming? The culture of physical games, a major aspect to video games and buying video games and collecting that all of us know and love. They have at least taken the first step to doing so, and the way they went about it is kinda fishy in my opinion, since it's a bit sketchy. I'll explain exactly what I mean in this video. I'll tell you exactly what Nintendo's been doing, why it's bad, and how it could negatively affect the future of gaming and the industry itself. Now, let me paint you a picture. You go to the store and you pick up a game cartridge. You want to buy this game because you like physical games. You like collecting and you like owning your game. You come home, you put it in, your Wi-Fi's not working, your mom hasn't paid the bill. That's fine, you're gonna kill the time by playing your new copy of Street Fighter 6. Hold up, 1 second, it doesn't work. I need to download the game? What are you talking about? I just paid for this game. Well, here's the thing. Nintendo wants you to pay for access to the game. So you didn't buy the game. You bought permission to play the game. Now that sounds like major news. And it's a bit confusing how Nintendo has been handling things moving forward with the Switch 2 and updates to the Switch ecosystem, because these changes are going to affect the Switch 2 and the Switch. Now, the Switch 2 has been in major controversy recently, and I made a whole video discussing it, so make sure to watch that if you want to get up to speed. Now, here's the thing. I have to explain exactly how this works, because that's a big statement I just made. Now, to be fair, with many games released nowadays, when they come out, you do need day one patches. That often means this game kind of won't really work on day one sometimes in the worst case scenarios, or doesn't work as intended. This isn't a common issue, but it's something that's happening more and more often as the gaming industry evolves. Definitely not a good thing, but internet is becoming more and more required to play these games, and Nintendo is shoving themselves headfirst into this, making it a hard requirement to do so. Now we're living in a time where you need an internet connection to play physical games, or it looks like it to be very soon. And they've officially taken the first step to removing the physical game collection entirely. But before we move on, I need to clear up a lot of confusion that's been going around. Granted, I'm very unhappy with the situation, but I feel like there's a bit of misinformation being spread. Let me clear up the confusion with Nintendo's game card situation leading up to the Switch 2. Now, I think some people are under the impression that the earlier scenario I listed was gonna happen for every game. Now, that is true, it could very well happen, but not for all games. Not every game is gonna be just a keycard access to downloading the game. That's only gonna be, they haven't said how many, but I don't think it would be too many. I think there would be a library of games that get sold like this. This wouldn't be the first party Nintendo games, but this would mainly be third party options like Street Fighter and their Bravely Default game that's coming out to the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, those games made by other publishers will most likely maybe be sold as a game card key access basically, but they haven't really confirmed how many, but it does seem like a popular option. Let's start from the top. We have what I'm going to call Type 1. Type 1 are your typical mainstream Switch exclusive games. So these are the big household Nintendo flagship games, such as the new Mario Kart game and the new Donkey Kong game. These will come in your physical card and they will be playable out the box. No sneaky business here. As long as you don't need any weird day one patches going on, it should work out the box. But this won't be the case for all. This is why it's very important from now on to check the bottom of your game to see if it's listed that this is a game card with access to the download or the actual physical card. I'll explain exactly how the game card situation is going to work in a bit because it's a bit interesting. Type 2. Now we talked about the first type, let's talk about the second type. Exclusive games that are game key cards, essentially. So like I said, Street Fighter 6 and Bravely Default. When you come home, you need the internet to play these games. When you go to the store, you will still buy a case and it will still come with a cartridge. But this cartridge is basically download access, or a bit of a license key, if you will. So you may think you can play the game whenever you want now, you got the download. But no, you still need the keycard in order to play the game. So you will have the game downloaded on your console before you can play it, but you also need to have the card in every single time when you play it. So it's a bit of a weird one, but makes sense. You won't notice it too much behind the scenes, but it's kind of the first step in removing access to physical games, because Nintendo really wants you to have a virtual collection, and I will explain that in a moment. Type 3. Switch 2 editions of games. Now this is another confusing point here, because a lot of people are confused about what these Switch 2 editions are. Are they entirely new games? Are they remastered games? What are they? Now, it's very hard to clarify this because not too much information's been released, but from my knowledge and from what I've seen and other people talk about, you can go to the shops and buy a cartridge, and this cartridge will come not with a special Switch 2 game. It will actually be a Switch 1 game. So the original copy of Zelda Breath of the Wild, for example, but it will also come with a Switch edition code. Now, this code is essentially a DLC code that will allow you to unlock the extra features to enable you to play that Switch 1 game with the benefits of the Switch 2. Bit of a weird setup because at first it's a bit misleading because you think this is a Switch 2 game, but it's actually an original Switch game with the capabilities to be played at a higher resolution, higher frame rate, or whatever the developers want to implement. So let's make that clear. Switch 2 editions are just Switch 1 games with a code that enables you to download the Switch 2 content. Now, I hope that's correct, but it may change in the future, so bear with me if any news comes out. I'll make sure to update you. In terms of the compatibility between Switch 1 and Switch 2, there's a bit of confusion. So let's say you have an original Switch game. You can technically use your majority of your Switch 1 library straight on the Switch 2. They will technically work. They may not come with the added benefits until you buy the upgrade pack, but it will work. And you can go out of your way and buy the Switch edition, except it will probably cost more in stores if you buy the essentially Switch 1 game plus the download key. But you should be able to download the Switch 2 pack online. And again, if you have a digital copy of the original Switch game, you can upgrade the pack online just like usual. So you can buy the pack, but not essential. So don't worry, you still have access to all your Switch 1 games on your Switch 2 with the option to upgrade the select games that have the function available to it. These are Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I think the new Metroid Prime game will come with that. There's a few others, but I don't know off the top of my head. You can find the list online. There's quite a few of the major Nintendo games are getting upgrades. Now, here's the thing. Let's say you bought the Switch 2 edition of Tears of the Kingdom. Now, since you bought this game, you can't really resell it, for example, because now that code you applied to play the Switch 2 game, which is actually a Switch 1 game, because they didn't really clarify that very well, you actually just have a Switch 1 game with a Switch 2 upgrade pack linked to your account, for example. So you don't really own Switch 2 edition of Tears of the Kingdom, you own the upgrade pack and then the Switch 1 copy. So that's why a lot of people are confused, and that's why it was confusing for me. And hopefully that clears up most of the confusion. A lot of the confusion came around the idea of the game cards, how the classic Switch games will be playable on the Switch 2. Do you need to buy them again? Thankfully, the upgrade packs should go around for $10 to $20, I believe, so at the top of my head. So it's actually good value for money, but very confusing around how they went about it. For example, when you had Breath of the Wild that came out on the Wii U, you had the Wii U copy of Breath of the Wild, which came with the Wii U data, and then you had the Switch copy, which came with the Switch data. Now you just have one card that can be played on both consoles, and if you want to play on Switch 2, you have access to upgrade to the Switch 2 benefits. Good in some sense, but bad in terms of collection, because if I bought this and I want to hold in my collection by activate the code, it's been used. It's a one-time purchase kind of thing. So that's definitely going to have an impact on the longevity of the value of these games, in my opinion, since it's just a download code with a different game underneath. Now, one annoying gripe about this, if I want to play my Switch 2 copy of Tears of the Kingdom, I can't exactly play it and then give it to my friend. I can give him the game cartridge, but he won't have the full Switch 2 experience. He will now have to go out and buy his own upgrade pack. So if that's something you thought about doing, it's not going to quite work, so something that you know about. Now, let's talk about the virtual card system that Nintendo seems to be very happy about. I don't understand the benefits too much of this. They really tried to say it was the best of both, the best of the physical game system and the digital game system, trying to merge them into one. Now, I call BS on this because I can't see how restricting access to your own digital library is a benefit. It just seems a bit of trying to control what streamers can do with products they buy. It seems like we're buying access and not buying actual games. So we've had physical games, now digital games, and now control over our digital games. So Nintendo can tell us when and where we can play our digital games. No longer can I buy a game and have it on both my consoles at the same time, or have access to my downloaded game on both my consoles at the same time, which is absolutely absurd how much control we are giving to Nintendo. But there are some benefits here to be had, but I want to talk about why I'm not really happy with it. So let's say I have the new Mario Kart game on my account, and I own 2 Switches for whatever reason. Who knows, maybe I have a big family and I share my account with my siblings, for example. I want Mario Kart on this Switch, and I have another Switch. I have to move my copy of Mario Kart, or access to my copy of Mario Kart, from console to console. I still have to download it on both consoles, so it's not really saving me time downloading it like a physical copy would. I can physically take out the card, take it out of this console, put it in this console. Saves time. That's the benefit of a physical copy. I can take this card, give it to my brother, he can play it. He can give me back when he's done, no download needed. That's soon not going to be the case with these card access games, but more confusion. Doesn't really matter. But luckily, this only applies to fully digital games, not the card access games. But a few gripes with this. An internet connection is needed for the first time you start playing a game that's loaded into your console. And also, what's even more confusing, you also require internet to eject the game. So let's say the internet goes out in my house, or I'm away on a trip. This is a portable console. I should have access to my library if it's downloaded. But hey, I'm on a camping trip. My brother wants to play Mario Kart and he doesn't want to get off his Switch or swap Switches for whatever reason. I don't know. Now I have to eject my copy of Mario Kart so he can have it on the other Switch. We share one account, for example. But I can't eject and give up access to my copy of Mario Kart because we have no data. Where is the benefit in this? Am I not understanding this? We need internet to start the lending process and eject the cart. So the way it works, if I didn't really explain it right, you can have your collection, but your collection can be split across consoles. Something they didn't say is that it's limited to 2 consoles. Kind of a big deal, because what about people that like collecting the consoles, who likes to get the special editions of the consoles, who like to get the new versions when the Switch 2 Plus comes out, or OLED comes out, or whatever the new comes out. Also, I think across the Switch 1 and Switch 2, so if I own 3 consoles, it's maxed out to 2. And it says in this disclaimer as well. So what happens in that case? Now I have to pick 2 consoles to have access to these games? There's a lot of unanswered questions that really need to be answered, because there's a lot of control being put onto the consumer without explanation, but we'll have to see how this goes. Let's say you have 2 consoles in your house, and then you have a kid that grows up and you want to have their own console. Typically what I do, I have one account for all the games in my household, and then everyone logs into that account. Well, that isn't going to work anymore, because Nintendo wants us to have our own individual account instead of a shared account, for example, which I guess I can understand from Nintendo's perspective. But what's going to happen when you have 3 Switches in your household for whoever's going to do that? It's not going to work anymore. You're capped out and you're locked off. So this kind of is very restrictive in my opinion, and they're controlling how we access to the games that we paid for, and it feels like I'm paying access or permission to play the game instead of actually owning anything. I often think about how this is not really about gaming, but in general, how we lose control more and more as we head closer to the future. We own less and less. We just have access to more and more. It's just we have a license to use a certain product instead of owning a certain product. And this is something we see more and more, not just in the gaming space, but all over the place. And now it's being applied to video games more and more with each new generation that comes out. Nintendo is seeming to do this very aggressively with how they are tackling the launch of the Switch 2, for example. Now, why is this bad? I've touched upon why this topic is bad, and I hope that you guys can see the picture with me here. Straight up, let's say I buy a physical game, and it's one of the games that have keycard access, for example. Imagine the servers go down. That game is gone. Your money is gone. You don't have the game anymore. You have a brick. You can't go on the servers to download the game, whether it be Nintendo servers or if the game gets pulled from the store for whatever reason. A similar situation happened with another game. I can't remember the game. It was a racing game, and then I think EA took the game off the servers, or Ubisoft, I don't know. And it was a big deal because so many gamers lost access to the game and then never to be played again. If this was a physical game, that game could be preserved and people could still play the game. But when you have more games moving to online services only like this, it makes it completely redundant when there's not enough cost to keep the game running and they don't make enough profit to keep the servers running and keep support for the game. And in my opinion, this is ruining the culture of physical gaming and collecting games quite massively. How many games can afford to stay live for 10 years? Now, I know most people will obviously play a game well before the 10-year mark, but for me, it doesn't sit right. The fact that we have to play a game within a certain window or risk losing access to it. If I'm perfectly honest, I'm not the case with everyone here, but some of my favorite games are games from like 10 years plus ago, from like early 2000s PC games. I love those games. They have a certain charm to them. But if we had this methodology applied to these, you would have DRM and restricted access and eventually lose access to it, and that will be lost to time. I don't like this approach, and I think a solution or compromise has to be made. And Nintendo subtly going about this approach is something I'm not happy about. And honestly, moving to a fully virtual collection is terrible for collectors, because how are they going to collect these games from now on? They can't. It's a virtual collection that can be removed at any moment. And collectors have been a staple for the video game industry for a long time. And in my opinion, it will harm the industry as a whole, because with the culture of collecting video games, it's going to harm the culture of gaming, because without collectors or having your own personal collection, I feel less tied to the products I'm playing, for example. I just feel like it's my turn to play, for example. So, and some diehard people really love collecting, and it's going to massively impact them. And another aspect I think about is the fact that we are now only forced to buy from Nintendo. We only have to buy from Nintendo. They really want to cut off the middleman and maximize profits. So there's no chance of reselling on games. The stores don't really get that much of a margin from selling the games, because they want to move everything to buying from Nintendo only. So you can't just get a digital copy and then sell it back, since that is the end goal for them, in my honest opinion. It's very obvious from the whole keycard access idea how much work they're putting into the virtual card system. Typically, what I would do, and a lot of other people who can't really afford to splash out on money nowadays for playing video games, at least this is the method we did, we'd buy a game, we'd finish the game, and then we'll sell or trade in the game. And you can buy games at discounted rate that are pre-owned, play them, and return it if you really want to experience it, and that way you're not missing out. And especially in the times that we live in with an economic crisis, especially here in the UK, where people are going through a cost of living crisis, people don't really have money for entertainment anymore. So this is definitely gonna, hurt a lot of people, in my opinion. They want to cut all this out and the money goes straight to Nintendo. Unless Nintendo lets us buy the physical game cartridge and send it back to them when we're done. But I don't think that's what they're gonna do. So this will also hurt avenues adjacent to gaming. For example, trade-in video game shops. Like I think Best Buy was the one in America that closed down. In the UK, we have Computer Exchange. These will be harmed by this direction. So less support for gaming as a whole. More so in terms of people who want to play games or can't afford full price games, it will harm them quite a bit. Because especially with the price moving up extremely high for one, consoles, and the price of games, this is not looking good. How can we expect the gaming industry to grow if less people can be involved because they can't afford it? Thanks to the increasing in price and increased digitalization, everyone knows that digital copies are more expensive, at least in my opinion, because usually I'll buy secondhand games, play the game, and I bought it for cheaper than I would originally from the Nintendo store, for example. That's why I have a large collection of physical games. I can also borrow games from my friends, for example. That's a big W, because I can play the game, experience it, we can have a shared experience, and then, I can become a fan of that series, buy my own copy, buy merchandise, support the developers, spread this game onto more people, because, word of mouth and attention is a major thing. Imagine I would never play the game if my friend didn't encourage me to play it and loan me his copy. I would not have known. I have lent a lot of people copies of my physical video games in the past, and then I've converted them to be fans of the same genre or franchise I have, which has been a net positive over time. If immediately the company doesn't get the money from it, over time they get more of a larger fan base and build a larger community of people who will happily support and throughout their lifetime support them, for example. And this is a massive way the community can grow as a whole. And I think community is such a major part of gaming as a whole, because if the community wasn't strong in the gaming industry, then we wouldn't have made it this far. So that's why I feel making game sharing more difficult by restricting your access to your own games, as well as only lending games to your family group, because they really want to push this digital approach, is gonna have a long-term negative in the culture of gaming as a whole. This doesn't really seem to benefit the consumer. It just seems to benefit the corporation, which is one reason I think they're making this move, because they want more money, because they are business at the end of the day. And by the way, why I'm making a big deal about this is because games are going to increase in price, not just Nintendo. Nintendo are making the first steps into moving to a more digital focused gaming platform, more increased price. And experts do agree, like I said in my earlier video, that this is going to be the step forward for games becoming more expensive. And if I can't share it, for example, with local people, or I can't sell it, trade it, or move it on, or loan other people my copy of the game, it's not going to be a net positive. It's just more restrictive than it is. It's not really giving access, it's removing access. But on a side note, let's talk about if more games go through the game card access route. Maybe some people see it as a positive, but let's say I go down to one of my friends' houses and I want to go play Street Fighter 6. We're really excited to play Street Fighter 6. I load it up into a Switch. Guess what? I gotta sit down, wait an hour, make annoying small talk, because I only want to play Street Fighter with this guy. I don't actually want to talk to him. But no, we gotta sit here and wait for the game to download. And imagine this guy has slow internet. What am I supposed to do? But gone are the days where you just go to the shops, no thinking about it, put the game in, and start having fun. I guarantee in 5 to 10 years, this is going to be commonplace, and physical games are going to be mostly fizzled out. And it's a bit concerning seeing a big gaming company like Nintendo make such aggressive moves towards a future like this. Now what they want everyone to download every game from Nintendo, and they want to really make use of the virtual card system. Otherwise, why would they push so hard for it or spend so much time developing it? Because in my opinion, the current system was already more than good enough. And I don't really like the idea of Nintendo saying, no, I can't play this game even though I bought it on another system that I own or someone close to me owns. I don't see the net positive, and it just seems like step one. At first, what they do, they sell it as being easier for you. And then maybe what if they make this service exclusive down the road, saying we're adding benefits to it. Today, they say it's an easier approach benefiting you. Then soon, they will probably add benefits saying this is an exclusive system. And then soon, you won't remember how owning a game even feels like. And I'm sure some of you watching probably haven't even held a physical game, some of the younger people watching this. And that's a sad idea, in my opinion, because soon we're going to own less and less, and you just own permission to play the games that you want. This is why a lot of people are not happy with Nintendo at the moment. Alongside the release of the Switch 2, doing the absolute bare minimum to release a console, which benefits don't really seem to outweigh the massive asking price. Make sure to watch this video regarding the release of the Switch 2.